This is the Strike Mash Boil podcast, presented by the Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club. This week, Matt and Erika from Brew Roots joins us to talk all things Hefeweizens. That and more, so stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to Strike Mash Boil. I'm Marco, president of Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club. I'm joined by my co-host Phil and our resident BJCP national judge, the Doc, Nick. Guys, welcome back. Excited for the show that we have planned this week. We're actually hanging out with the hosts from Brew Roots Podcast, joining us for a bit of a crossover show. But before we get into that, this week is episode 21 of our podcast, and it's going to end season 1 for us.
Yeah, and so that means we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus from full-length shows for a few weeks as we kind of regroup and then start up production on season 2. But in the meantime, we'll be posting plenty of content from, including some little short bits we're recording, some of our past interviews that have been split across some show, multiple shows. We're going to put them back together into a single episode, take a bunch of these judging sessions we've been doing, edit those together into single shows. So lots of stuff planned, so keep tuning in. And as for season 2, I don't think we've really talked about when we're going to kick things off with a first episode, but it'll probably be early summer. So stay tuned to our social channels for all of that.
Yeah, so like Phil said, we got lots of stuff in the works, even though season 1 is ending. But it's just a great opportunity for us to reflect back on the show, get some feedback from everyone, see what worked, didn't work, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then make some changes for season 2. So enough about that. Let's get into the show.
Yeah, so a few weeks back, we had a show we called The Bitter Off. And it started off as a show where we were wondering if some local commercial beers could stand up to the OG classics. And what it turned into was a cool deep dive into this classic style that isn't brewed very much anymore. And if you listen to the show, you know how much we really loved that older, lesser brewed style. And after the show was released, we even heard back from our listeners who had gone out and bought some of those beers and started working on recipes and have even brewed some of their own versions.
And that basically got us thinking and decided to start a series of shows that we're calling BrewRequisites. In these shows, we're going to pick a category out of the BJCP, find some of the commercial examples, get some home brews, and with the Doc leading the way, as always, we're going to dive into the beer style.
Yeah, and to make it a little more exciting, we brought in some friends of ours, as Marco mentioned. Joining the show this week are the hosts of Brew Roots Podcast, Matt and Erika. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, really excited to be here.
Big fans of the podcast.
Big fans.
We really appreciate you guys joining us this week. And, I'm sure we have, you guys have more listeners than we do at this point, but I'm sure some of our listeners haven't heard your podcast. So why don't you guys take us through what Brew Roots is about, what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so the Brew Roots Podcast is a podcast about beer.
Yeah, so we take you behind the scenes of your favorite craft breweries. We also do cideries, mead. We'll get into distilleries probably at some point.
Yeah. And it basically it was a passion project to have people who were home brewers like yourself. And a lot of the breweries that we interview, not everyone's, spoiler alert, is a professional brewer. They didn't go to Siebel, UC Davis. They started, like many of your listeners and yourselves, as home brewers and chased the dream to become professional brewers. So we kind of tell that story. And we have sound guy Ryan, who's basically the celebrity of the show.
Yeah, not with us tonight, unfortunately.
But he's what makes us sound amazing. And
literally the only reason why we brought you guys on here was for him, and he's not here. So it's outrageous.
And the thing was, like, we explained on this week's episode that sound guy Ryan is he's taking a hiatus from the podcast because
swamped with school.
But we should say that we suspended him. We should make some real drama or something. But
he's been furloughed.
Yeah, he's been
Well, I mean, nevertheless, you guys have a great show. You guys tell awesome stories. Love the breweries that you guys have been visiting and talking to. Learned a ton from you guys. So for those that haven't listened, it's worth a listen. Check them out. Phil? what category did we pick? Let's get into this. I'm thirsty. I know these guys are thirsty. Let's do this.
So you better be thirsty because we got 6 beers to drink. All right. So
We purposely did not drink at our recording session before that, which is
we've
like
been,
saying a lot.
Yeah, holding off all day.
good. So hopefully the Haze boys will enjoy this show because we picked the OG Hazy BJCP category 10A German Weissbier or Hefeweizen.
And everybody just got really disappointed because they thought you were going to say New England IPA, and now there's like womp womp. Everybody is officially shutting off the podcast, not listening right now. Thanks.
Yeah,
Phil.
I said OG Hazy, not the new Hazy. And we have right off the BJCP commercial examples list 2 of those beers. And if you are German or from Germany, I hope I don't screw any of this up. I'm going to try. Eyinger Brauweiss from Eying in southern Bavaria. Weihenstephaner Weissbier from Freising, Bavaria. I've actually been there. Really, really cool spot. Highly recommend it.
Whatever.
Yeah. Marco's shaking his head again because I have to throw it in.
Every damn time. It just does it every time.
And then one more Bavarian offering is Benediktner Weissbier from Ettel in the Bavarian Alps. And a quick shout out to Kamal at Redstone Liquors. He helped me dig through their entire beer selection which anybody who's been to Redstone knows is absolutely monstrous. And he really helped me out to try and find a local option. But what we found is a lot of these beers, Hefeweizens, they're seasonal to us here in New England. A lot of these, local breweries around here, they don't brew them until, May, June, and they don't come out until July. So if you want to get a local version of this beer, you're going to have to wait a little while. And if you want to brew it, now's the time to brew it so you can have it in Memorial Day or into early summer. And then we have homebrews, and it's a 3-way battle royale between me, Marco, and Nick.
Dun, dun, dun.
See who's got the better Hefeweizen.
So before we do start digging in, Nick, you're going to have to help us out here. Why don't you take us through BJCP category 10 German wheat beer, which is Hefeweizen?
Well, it's actually Weissbier, not Hefeweizen. So
I was gonna say
we should talk about this because
this is what happens. For the record, this is what happens when you have a national BJCP judge as part of your show. They don't let you get away with the little things. He's got to call you out every time.
Well, it's sort of a point of contention, and I could be wrong about this, but I think the 2008 guidelines, they had it as Hefeweizen because us Americans, that's generally what we call these beers. But the Bavarians, the Germans, they usually call them Weissbier, which means, of course, white beer in German. I know, shocking. But when I think of white beer, I think of Belgian wit. I don't know if I think of German Hefeweizen, so it's a little bit confusing. Hefeweizen, of course, means Hefe is yeast in German, and Weizen is wheat beer. So I think they're both interchangeable. In fact, I think one of these beers, commercial beers, one's Weissbier. I think maybe not one of these, but other ones have Hefeweizen on them, I believe.
The
right?
Weihenstephaner calls it a Hefeweissbier.
Okay, so maybe it's kind of splitting the teams there. So this is category 10A. It is a pale, refreshing German wheat beer, high carbonation, dry finish, fluffy mouthfeel from that wheat, and of course the distinctive banana and clove yeast character coming from the isoamyl acetate, which is the ester, and the 4-vinyl guaiacol, which is the phenol that produces that clove effect. So this beer is all about, obviously, the yeast. It is a wheat beer, so that wheat does have a component, but without the yeast and that yeast profile, this beer doesn't exist. And in fact, this was one of the first beers that kind of made me realize that not all beers taste like either Bud Light or an IPA. You can have beers that have these crazy clove phenolics, esters, and it's a good introduction if you want to go into like Belgian beers, because Belgian beers also have a lot of these characteristics in something like this. So overall, this beer, what you want is, again, you want that aroma and that flavor of the banana and the clove, and that comes from the yeast. And that's why this is a really good beginner beer to brew, because it's pretty simple. Most recipes are pretty standard, as we're going to talk about a little bit later. And the yeast selection is pretty limited. You have a couple choices. They're going to produce what you want. They're going to give those flavors that are really hallmarks of this style. So a little bit of background. So this is a Bavarian beer, so southern Germany. And traditionally, the brewing was reserved to Bavarian royalty for, 100 years, something like that. Eventually, I think Schneider was the first to kind of get the rights to brew this beer in Germany. And so Schneider Weiss is sort of the OG Hefeweizen, which of course we don't have here, which is
It is
pretty funny.
It is really hard to find. I looked all over, and I did find it. I found it at Wegmans.
Yeah, straight out of the fermenter in the brewery when he was there last time.
I didn't go to Schneider, but the ones I found at Wegmans were dated July of last year, and so I just felt that. And I did drink one. I did buy it and bring it home, and it I chose not.
Well, Phil, you mentioned that, but I'm looking at the bottom can of this beer and it says it was brewed in February of 2020.
Really?
So, yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what difference it makes at this point.
Phil.
Killing it.
Well, this goes.
Maybe we should have done the commercial ones first.
Maybe, yeah. So, this goes into one of the topics, and we'll go into sort of the hallmarks of the style. But one big key thing about the style is freshness. This beer is very much about freshness. It's not a beer you want to age usually, and we may see that when we open that one up, and it's like a year old,
and it's crystal clear.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing.
Beautiful.
So with these beers, of course, they're going to be hazy because of the yeast and polyphenols that are in solution. But over time, that will settle. And so oftentimes what you do is when you pour into a glass, you can swirl up the bottom and pour that on top. It's an option. You don't have to. Usually when you do it, I think the German term is mit Hefe. So with yeast. That's the term. I kind of went off on a rail there, but
yeah, I'm looking forward to doing my Haze Boy can rocking to get it ready to go into the glass and get all the sediment all mixed up in there. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I hope there's no fruit in these. That would be a real problem.
I love fruit chunks in my beer.
I love when professional breweries have fruit chunks in their beer.
Don't get Marco started.
Anyways, moving on.
So that's the style in a nutshell. I mean, I think we can go more into it as we taste these, but I'm kind of thirsty. So
we are gonna we're not gonna embarrass ourselves and put our beers last. We're gonna do the homebrews first. So do we flip a coin, or we just want to grab one of them and roll with it?
I say I put them in order in front of me. Phil, Nick, Marco.
All right.
And I say that's what we do.
Okay.
And of course, Phil's fucking canning his.
Phil's canning.
I'm the canner.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So these beers should be pretty high carbonation according to the style, but I guess we'll find out.
And a high carbonation, what did you carb at just for homebrew list?
For me, I carb. So I did a burst carb overnight at like 40 psi for 24 hours. I settled it out at I want to say it was like 15 psi or something like that.
I think they were looking for the specific CO2 volume of the beer.
Like 3, 4, something like that. I think that's where
that's about where you want to be. Yeah.
I'm not there.
I'm not sure if I am, but I guess we'll find out. So right away, I guess we can talk about this beer. So first of all, not very hazy. I don't know how long that's been sitting. I tried to swirl up the bottom, but mine was
is this the
pretty typical of Phil.
I did the can roll. I did. I swear I did.
It has been dropping clear in the keg, and I brewed this in the last week of February. So it's not that old. Call it 45 days.
That happens pretty frequently, especially if you homebrew and you keg, which is why this is a great beer to put into bottles, because you can sort of swirl up that bottom. With a keg, you don't really want to pick up the keg and swirl it every time you pour some out. I guess you could, but that's unfortunately that's a problem. So with the yeast, in case people are wondering, the yeast actually adds some fluffiness to the mouthfeel and some extra character to it, which is why it's pretty important to have it in solution if you can. But there are what are called Hefeweizens that you can get that are sort of clear like this. So that's sort of what this looks like.
Well, the Hefeweizens are going to look almost like a lager. So I mean, this one's still. It's not crystal.
Phil, mine looks pretty fucking crystal clear.
This is pretty clear.
All right.
Yeah.
This is this is the reason why we're going before the commercial example. We can get this right out of the way.
I'm gonna be honest with you though. I would drink the shit out of this if this was available.
This is great.
I think it's a good beer. And
what's the ABV here, Phil? Because I feel like I can smash a lot of this.
Yeah, it's low to style. It's like 4 1/4.
Oh, that's
pretty close, right on edge.
Yeah. And I did the Gordon Strong recipe, which was 60-40 Pilsner to wheat. And I used the floor malted Weirmann. It's all Tettning, and it's the Imperial Stefan, which is also the Weinstefaner yeast. And then
nice.
I just tweaked the water a little bit to kind of a standard yellow profile.
You did something a little bit different here because you were aiming for a particular aroma and flavor.
That's true. I did two things. The first one was in my mash. I didn't do a single infusion mash. Gordon Strong in his recipe really focuses on doing a decoction, and I don't have the ability to do that. So I did a step mash. I have an electric system, so I could do a step mash, and I actually used the new spike basket. And so I started off, my first mash step was 111 degrees, and then it went up to like 120 something, and then 130 something, 140 something, 150 something, about 15-20 minutes each, which made for a really long brew day. And then I don't like the banana profile that you get out of these beers. I'm just not a huge fan of that banana. It comes across like that banana popsicle type, fake banana. So I fermented below what the yeast packet said. So yeast packet was like 64 to 72 is the range, and I fermented at 62 for the first 36 hours, and then I brought it up to 64. So you should get mostly clove, very little banana, if any.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
This might be a good time to talk about the basics for brewing this beer, now that we're talking about your recipe design. Yeah. So again, let's talk about the malt profile first.
Yeah.
To get that out of the way. That's pretty simple. So this is a wheat beer. Generally, technically, the standards are you want at least 50-50 Pilsner malt, wheat malt. For an OG of like 1050, 1055, you basically want a beer that's around 4 to 5%, maybe a little bit higher is okay. But you can kind of vary that range between the wheat and the Pilsner. So your ratio was 60% wheat, 40% Pilsner?
Yep, that's right up from Gordon Strong.
That's pretty traditional, 50-50. Some go 70% wheat, 30% Pils. But you generally want to have more wheat than Pilsner at the end of the day. That's what most traditional Hefeweizens have. The IBU is generally pretty low. It's usually between 10 and 18, 10 and 15, and you usually want to use any kind of German hops, one charged for bittering. You really don't need any flavoring hops, or obviously no dry hops or anything like that. So the hops are pretty irrelevant. You just need some IBUs in there. And then the water profile, again, can be pretty variable. I don't think it's that important and something to worry about. And then the most important thing is the yeast. You got to use the Hefeweizen yeast. It's usually from Weihenstephaner. I think, was it 3068 for white yeast?
Yep.
White Labs is WLP 300. Imperial is Stefan.
Yep.
Stefan. And there's also another Hefeweizen yeast you can use that comes from maybe Schneider. I don't remember who. And that is White Labs 380, I believe. I don't remember what it is for.
It's not Schneider. You can't get the Schneider Weiss yeast. You have to build it up out of the bottle, which Switzer's done it.
Wherever it comes from, Franciscan or one of those. Yeah. But that's the most important thing. If you're going to brew this beer, get the wheat and the Pilsner ratio. Some people add other things besides the Pilsner and the malt or the wheat. Some will add some Millinoinen, get some bready characters, maybe a little bit of Munich. You can add a touch of Crystal, but be really careful. Again, this should be a light, refreshing beer, and Crystal will kind of weigh that down, especially with that sweetness. But the yeast is the most important. Now, as far as mash schedule, maybe I'll talk about that when we try our beer. We can kind of go into that, as well as temperature. But let's just do temperature for the yeast. So when you ferment, generally if you ferment between 60 and 65, you're going to get more of the clove. Anything 65 and up, you're going to get the banana. So that's pretty simple to remember. Depends what you like. What most people do is they'll start low and they'll let it free rise, so you get best of both worlds. But it really depends on what you like, and different breweries do it different ways.
All right, so to put our guests on the spot for a second, Matt, Erika, have you guys had a lot of commercial Hefeweizens before?
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, for sure, I've had them. I don't know if I've had one recently, because I think what Phil was saying, it's more seasonal.
Yeah, the most recent one I had was over at Faces, which was conveniently the one that Ryan incorrectly called the Hefe.
Yes.
And that one was great, but that one was definitely more banana forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of commercial breweries purposely do that banana forward flavor to attract more drinkers. I think banana is a more common flavor. Clove can sometimes be a hit or miss flavor that not everyone loves.
Yeah.
I certainly love a clove forward Hefeweizen, but I know Firth by Night Shift is one that's like a one that I kind of keep my eyes peeled for, especially when it's right at the brewery, right on the tap.
Yeah.
Because again, I think especially night shift where they produce so much, sometimes their beer sits on the shelf for a little bit while, and that's not night shift's fault entirely.
Right, but you were saying, it's nice to have the Hefeweizen fresh.
Yeah.
So,
but recently I haven't seen a ton of Hefeweizens because of the seasonality of it, and plus COVID.
Seriously,
breweries are brewing whatever the heck is going to sell right now, so they're brewing their cousin, the hazy IPA, instead, I think.
Well, you've convinced me that you guys are Hefeweizen professionals, and so what we what we like to do when we try beers is we usually have our judge give them a score. But you guys are going to fill in for the doc this week, and you guys are going to drop a score on our homebrews to let us know, where they rank. And we won't tell you what the numbers mean, but you can score it from, we're going to call the lowest is a 10, and the highest you can go 50 is perfect, 10 is trash. You already kissed Phil's ass by telling him how much you like clove beer, so you don't have to give him a high score to compensate. He's already feeling good about himself.
Perfect.
So you can be real here. So you guys have the distinct honor of dropping a score for us, 10 to 50.
I knew we should have done this blind.
Seriously, right? Go ahead, Matt.
So, I mean, knowing what the style should look like right off the bat, with it being clear, I have appreciation for clear beer, but not in this category.
But it's not true to style.
I'm going to say 32.
Ooh.
It just seems right.
Yeah, that's a pro score. I feel
that's solid.
Good score.
That is a pro score. I mean, I feel a little bit like Dave Portnoy here.
Yeah. One bite.
Don't give the even numbers. I love it. That's a pro score. Well done.
Yeah. Well, 32 is an even number, but we're okay with that.
Yeah, but it's not on the dot.
It's not like 30.
It's not
right.
30
It's not a whole.
Right.
It's not a whole number.
Yeah.
32 to me, it just seems like it's a good beer, but to me, it's missing. It's balanced in a way that it's clove forward, but I do want a little bit more of that banana flavor to come through. To me, I don't know if it's carbed right on the dot. I know you gave your carb profile, but it seems a little undercarb to me, and that could just be because it was in the can, and yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
I enjoy that style.
Nice.
But
I was gonna rate it higher, but you know what? I guess I didn't read the guidelines before this, so I might be a little wrong. But I was gonna say maybe a 38, only because it has that great fluffy flavor, or mouthfeel, I should say, fluffy mouthfeel, and has the clove. It's clean. It's easy drinking. I thought it was decently carbed, for the style, but obviously, like what Matt said, you don't get the banana, and it's not a hazy boy, so you lose some points there. But overall, it's a good beer, and would I have another one? Yes. So I rate it a little higher.
Oh, I definitely have another.
Yeah. Full disclosure, at the homebrew scale, without bottle conditioning these, it'll be tough to really nail that carbonation profile. So if you're putting it into a bottle or a can from a keg, you're going to lose some carbonation there.
Yeah.
And so at our level, unless he keg or can conditioned, which he did not.
No, absolutely not.
No.
For the record, I think the carbonation was actually really good on this beer.
Cool.
Yeah.
But it's
and Nick always has to get the final say every time.
But it's not a 38. So.
Damn it.
Is it a 32 though?
Yeah, actually, that's about where I'd put it.
All right. Well, great job.
I see in the board behind you guys. Matt checked off 1 next to his name, so I get that. I see you guys are competing on who gets closer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll get the next one.
Erika's right 90% of the time. Sound guy Ryan's right 8% of the time, and I'm right 2% of the time. So
So
it's good. You gotta get it once in a while. All
right. So we're moving on. Is it Nick's turn now?
I think it's Nick's turn, and I gotta ask. You guys gave me unlabeled bottles. One has Yakima Valley.
It's the black one.
It's the black top. Black top.
Solid black.
All right.
Okay. So solid black. That's what we're going with.
All right. So while you guys pour, I guess I'll talk about this beer. So this is gonna be pretty easy. Very similar to Phil's beer. 60% wheat, 40% Pilsner. Well, maybe not 40% because there's actually a little bit of melanoidin in there. Maybe 2% melanoidin. And 15 IBU, 5% ABV. I believe I use the exact same yeast as Phil. I think it was Imperial Stefan. And so my goal when I brew this beer is I wanted it to start low and ramp it up. Unfortunately, it finished before I had time to sort of ramp it up. So it was mostly sitting in the 63, 64 degree range, which is going to be more clove heavy overall. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think what we'll do is after we taste our homebrew, then we can maybe go over how to like improve your Hefeweizen to a commercial level, because this beer is easy to brew. It is very difficult to perfect. And we'll find that out once we try the commercial versions.
I got to say, you use the same yeast, but man, do they smell different.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that aroma is exactly.
No, but it's definitely that yeast. It's definitely that yeasty.
It's yeasty, yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
So I will say one thing that is different, and I guess it's something we didn't really go into too much, is the mashing profile. So typically Hefeweizens traditionally were decocted. So in other words, a portion was taken out, boiled, and thrown back into the main mash to rise it to different temperature steps, as well as develop some Maillard reactions for some of that breadiness. Nowadays, that's not used very often because we use over-modified malt, but step mashes is still pretty popular. Now, Phil mentioned he did a pretty low step mash. So there's this very important step that you can do when you start out at about 100, 105 degrees. It's called the ferulic acid rest. And what this is the ferulic acid is released from the malt, and then it's processed during fermentation, and it becomes the 4-vinyl guaiacol, which produces the clove. So if you want to enhance that clove flavor, it's a good step to put in. Phil put that step in his beer and then put it in mine, and guess what? I can taste the difference. Phil's has much more of that clove spiciness. Mine just tastes kind of phenolic and kind of flat. And so that's the difference I'm tasting. And knowing how we did our rests, that actually explains quite a bit and shows you maybe how important that rest step could be.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point.
I did notice that yours is as clear as mine.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was gonna say, maybe a little clear.
This is off the keg, and it's actually hazier than yours. But maybe that's because it's off the keg.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you rock your keg before you did your pour?
I didn't.
He did. He shook it all up just to make sure.
He put a little flour in his beer too.
So, Nick, did you do a step mash or did you just do a single infusion?
Yeah, I did do a step mash. So I did a protein rest around 125 for about 10 minutes, raised it to 145 for like 30 minutes, and then 158 for another 30 to 40 minutes, and then mashed out, which is a pretty standard German step mash.
Sure. Yeah.
I do feel like I get a touch of sulfur in the aroma also,
Yeah,
which I think is normal for
getting.
wheat beers too. Yeah, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think mine may have gassed off. When we get to mine, I think it has a touch of sulfur also, but that's pretty normal for wheat beers.
I always get sulfur whenever I do wheat beers, and it usually takes quite a while for it to off gas. This beer is probably around a month old, maybe a little less, 3 weeks old at this point. So
I definitely get. You said it was. I guess, did you say neutral? You didn't use neutral, but I'm going to say the word neutral. Well, you said bland, I think, is the word that you used. I do get certainly some banana characters in here that I was not getting in Phil's.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would second that. It's a bit more, and not a lot, but you can get like a hint of it, maybe.
I disagree completely.
Oh.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's more estery, like you were saying. But I think that kind of lends itself to that banana flavor. I think those two kind of are similar to me.
For the record, I don't get much banana either personally. But that might be my own bias because I know that it didn't get up to those temperatures that I was looking for. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is also the beauty, and we talk about this fairly often as it pertains to competition. When you go into competition, that literally everybody's palate is so different.
For sure.
And when you're getting score sheets back from competition, somebody who's literally sitting across the table from somebody else, drinking the same beer, and the things that they pick up in the beer can just vary wildly. And it's, there's a couple of things there. There's, your individual perception, your historic experiences influence what you taste things and how you relate them to what you've experienced in the past. So there's all this other stuff that goes into it. So it is pretty interesting how you guys sitting next to each other, drinking the same beer. Erika's getting a little bit of banana. I'm getting a little bit of banana. Nick's like, fuck you both. I'm not getting any. And Matt concurs with Nick. So we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your head is not as nice as Phil's either. Like Phil's was much fluffier. And even like mouthfeel wise, I don't get much fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick's been hearing that his whole life, though. It's just
right?
I mean,
big downer.
For my wife, yeah.
I'm sorry, Nick.
Phil's carbonation was definitely, much more on point than mine was. I'll give him credit there for sure, and that helps. I mean, that carbonation helps that fluffy feel as well as that wheat, and that's part of the style. I mean, it's really what makes it a great beer to drink in the summer, hot weather.
So I guess my score, is that what you want? Do you want
That's next? That is next.
That's what we want
on the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 27.
Okay.
All right.
I think, and you know what? It stinks because you guys are in front of me. So to be like, oh, Phil's is better. It's not particularly better. It's just now having that conversation and understanding some of the things. It does influence the score a little bit, but I agree. I think the mouthfeel has a lot to do with that, and being slightly undercarb, and I like the clove flavor though. I think if there was banana in it, I would have probably enjoyed that balance, and that probably would have brought the score up. But for me, it's I don't I hate the word true to style, but it's just this beer true to style. And I don't know.
Not so much. Yeah.
I sound like such a douche. I'm so
God,
sorry.
You're such a douche.
You sound like me. You sound like me. You're a judge.
We purposely try not to do this on our podcast. So it's like
right.
Like, oh, now that we know that you guys can talk like this, we're screwed. So thanks.
We do appreciate the transparency and a little bit of discomfort for us goes a long way. So we absolutely love it. Nick does. So the difference between Nick and Matt is Nick's just an asshole and likes being an asshole. Matt, you're being kind of humble about it, which is really great. Like you feel bad. Like that's not Nick. Nick doesn't do that at all.
Oh, Nick, come on. You got to be more like me, I guess.
I definitely do. It's something I need to work on, especially according to Marco.
I was actually going to go pretty similar. I was thinking 28. The beer just, to be harsh, I guess, it's a little lackluster. It's not a bad beer. I would have another glass. I enjoy it, but when it comes to style, I just think it's just estery and it's clean. Yeah.
That's great.
It's tough because as like a home brewer myself and then drinking a ton of commercial beer, I'm always excited for the second pour. And this one, I don't know if I'm as excited for the second pour.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, you guys shouldn't worry about this at all. We are our harshest critics anyway. Yeah. So you're not going to say anything to us that we wouldn't have trashed. Nick gave himself a 17 on this beer, so don't worry about it. You guys are good.
Yeah, I mean,
no, but the thing is I think homebrewers, I try to solicit like feedback, and it's like my dad or my girlfriend.
Oh, this beer's great.
It's the best beer I've ever had, and it's like, dude, I know this beer sucks, so you don't have to tell me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually pretty disappointed in this beer because I've brewed quite a few Hefeweizens, and this is one of my more poor efforts, and for a few reasons. I think some things I skipped, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I don't disagree with your scores, so if that makes you feel any better.
Cool.
Yeah, and folks have heard us talk about this on the podcast before, but one of the prerequisites to joining our club has to do with being honest. The two main things: if you come to one of our meetings and you bring a beer and somebody tries your beer and thinks it sucks, they're going to tell you, can you handle it? That's one of the things. You got to be able to handle it, right? And then the other thing too is if you try somebody's beer and you think it sucks, can you say it? And so if you can do those two things, you're going to do great in our club. And our members really appreciate the honest feedback. We joke around all the time about all of our friends who love free beer. It's always the best beer, just like you're talking about. Dad says
exactly.
The beer's awesome. It's free. Yeah. It's for me, right? But when you come to our club meetings, the folks appreciate free beer. Don't get us wrong, but they'll tell you what they really think about it. All right, my turn to get bashed. I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready for this.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, Marco, why don't you tell us about your beer?
So, no big surprises that mine is going to be really similar to yours, except a little bit different in mine, where I'm 50% pills, 40% wheat, and 10% oats.
Easiest one.
Yeah, that's the oats. That's the not correct ingredient right there.
That's right.
Cheated.
That's right.
That looks like a New England IPA.
Yours is very fruity.
Like, I tell you,
Yeah.
it doesn't smell like a.
So, and then the yeast that I used was the Latlamund. I'm going to say that wrong. Their German wheat yeast.
Wow. Yours is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will also say too that the alcohol on mine is much higher than everybody else's.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I got a little bit of warming. It tastes.
Yeah. So I did tell Phil ahead of time that mine is more like a Weizenbach than it is a Hefeweizen.
Imperial Hefe.
So it's technically a pale Weizenbach.
Nick and team, are you guys familiar with the term retronasal for like tasting?
I am sort of when it comes to like cigar smoke, but not beer. So I thought retronasal is when you kind of put it through your nose.
Yeah,
we were fortunate enough to do one with the sensory team over at Firestone Walker, and they were talking about
that's one of the things they use oftentimes.
And with this beer, if you drink the beer and then you exhale through your nose, I've been doing that with all the beers, and this one is so different. And it's a hard thing to do. I choked the first time I did it, but now everyone's going to do it and choke. But
yeah, so Marco, this beer. So a couple things. First of all, I get quite a bit of sulfur off of this one as well. The second thing, it almost tastes like a saison yeast. The amount of phenolics and like black pepper that's in there. Maybe it's because it's like a big beer, but I get a ton of kind of black pepper phenolics, almost like from a saison yeast. But there is quite a bit of banana in here too. So I think it's a nice
So
mix.
I fermented high. Yeah, definitely fermented high. This one I fermented not entirely, mostly at 68 degrees, and then brought it up to 71 for a couple of days. Then slowly started backing it down.
So my score for this would be a 19.
Well, that's totally fine with me.
And the reasons is it's not a Hefeweizen.
I warned Phil.
It's one of those new beers that someone invented and
doesn't have a name yet.
I mean, it being National Saison Day or whatever day it is that people on Instagram.
Yeah, it's like
Saison Day. It's close to a Saison.
Is today Saison Day?
It is.
Yeah. Oh wow! I guess we should have done Saison.
Yeah, surprise you guys.
There's always
Who knew? Can anybody tell what my favorite beer style is?
Not Saison?
Yeah, that black peppery flavor is not a beer, like a flavor that I thoroughly enjoy. So for me, it's what did I say? 19? Yeah, 19.
Just trying to read up real quick. Yeah, that's interesting. Again, I feel like flavor-wise, this is maybe closer to what it's supposed to be. Well, because I get more of that banana clove balance that the others kind of were lacking, but it's also fuller in flavor and higher ABV and not as light. And it's also hazier, so it's kind of a tough one for me. I was gonna give it like, I don't know, maybe a 22, just because I don't know. Because I think flavor-wise, it's better, but it's also not right. So that's what I'm going to go with.
I'm staring at you. I'm looking right at you.
There are daggers in your eyes right now.
But again, I like it too. I do wish it was lower in ABV. I think that would have been better.
I'll give you props here, Marco. I mean, that's the haze. That's what you want to see in the style. So that's
for sure.
That looks fantastic.
That's 3 points. That's where the 3 of those 19 points came from.
Exactly. Yeah. I think honestly, what's funny is like if this was a darker, you could call it a Weizenbach, which is a style, by the way.
Right.
No, that's what I said earlier. It's
it's not dark enough. It's not dark enough though.
No, you can have a
pump
pale
the
one.
brakes. Check the style guidelines.
It's not
there
dark
is a
enough.
pale version.
Come
Is there a pale
on.
version? I've never had a pale version.
There is a pale. There is a pale version.
Okay.
Yes, read the guidelines, Nick. You are our professional, buddy.
I skipped
Pale
that one.
and dark versions exist. Damn it.
It's
So
pretty good. I
That's
don't.
right.
I don't like the yeast character personally. I don't know. That's my. I don't know that I've experienced that particular yeast before, but personally, I don't care for it. I guess I like more of the traditional Hefeweizen yeast.
Yeah, they claim that it's a Bavarian example of the yeast. I hadn't used it before. It's definitely the first time that I've tried it, and it was way higher alcohol than I expected. It actually finished at a lower gravity than I expected, and so putting this into our little thing here was a fun little experiment because I knew it was going to be a little bit different. And I had told Phil that it was going to not be a Hefeweizen, so it was good to throw one in there for you guys.
So you know what I get out of it? And I got it right on the nose, and I didn't say a comment about one of our bitters earlier. Marco gave me shit on the last show that I didn't say it after the fact. So I'm going to say it now. One of the things I'm getting on the aroma reminds me of Treehouse. And we've talked about how Treehouse has done blends of yeast. Specifically, they throw in a little bit of Hefeweizen yeast. So it was the first thing I smelled. And I wasn't even thinking of it at the time, but it smelled like an IPA. And I started thinking through like Trillium, no, Treehouse. This smells a little like a Treehouse beer.
By the way, I think this is the yeast they throw in there.
I'll bet you
It's a dry yeast.
Oh, that's interesting.
yeast.
That's an interesting idea.
And
So now,
I don't know.
I was just going to ask, so which one was the best out of these
I think it
three?
was
Phil's is the best.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You guys definitely passed.
Yeah,
the
no, you guys
test.
got it correctly. Yeah, Phil's. I mean, as a judge, Phil's would have won a competition between these three.
Now, I'm just curious, as a home brewer, what is the one thing that each respective brewer could have done better to make their profile, make their beer better?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can talk about this just real briefly. I came up with like a real brief list. We've talked about these already, and maybe I'll comment on my own beer. So one thing I didn't talk about was something I did with my beer. So something that's very common with professional brewers is this is one of those beers where they open ferment it. So basically they ferment it in these giant cylindrical containers, or maybe these big square, almost like a
bath, kind of like
a lambic, like a cool ship, right? So it looks like a cool ship. And there's some great videos, pictures from Sierra Nevada. I know they do their Kellerweiss in this room with this giant tub, and you can see the yeast rise up, and it's really, really cool. When you open ferment like that, there's not so much pressure on the yeast and the liquid, and so you get a lot more of the phenolics and the esters that kind of provide that profile. So that's something you can do. If you're fermenting in a bucket, you can either put the lid on, but don't snap it closed, kind of keep it loose, or don't put the lid on, maybe put some cheesecloth over your bucket or over your fermenting vessel to prevent any kind of bugs getting in. And so that's what I did with my beer. Didn't help. But that is one option. I don't know how applicable it is on the homebrew level, because obviously our volumes are smaller, and so I don't know how much fermentation pressure is occurring.
How much pressure there actually is. Yeah.
The other thing you can do that none of us did, and it's actually pretty difficult to do, it's called spice. Basically, when you package your beer to naturally carbonate in the bottle or the keg, you can add in some unfermented wort instead of adding like table sugar, and that's actually supposed to help condition it, spund it in a way that it produces more of a natural carbonation, and you get some of those flavors as well. A couple other options. So we talked about decoction. That's one option. The ferulic acid rest. That's another option. And a couple other things I wrote down. So one was play around with fermentation temperatures. Again, I think my biggest problem, what I did was I had it at a too low a temperature and didn't finish high enough. So I missed a lot of those banana esters to make it a little bit more interesting. And play around with the malt character, or the malt bill. We talked about traditionally it's 60-40, 50-50 Pilsner wheat. Instead of 50% Pilsner, maybe do 40% Pilsner and throw in 10% Munich malt or 10% Vienna malt. Add a little bit of breadiness, that kind of dried bread character. I think it really works in this beer. So yeah, I mean, those are some options if you're looking to perfect the style. It's a really easy style to brew. It's a really incredibly difficult beer to perfect, as we're about to find out with the commercial beers.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Now you guys can trash the commercial ones as much as you want. Now that's totally fine
because they're not local, so we don't have to worry.
Well, whatever. They're not listening.
We do have listeners in Germany.
Wait, was that a shot at the podcast?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. You guys are amazing. You got listeners all over. Yeah.
Hey, you guys have no listeners. We got it, Erika. We got it.
We're the 99th most popular beer podcast in Germany. I'll have you know.
Wow.
Damn.
Hold on, we are an international podcast, right, Phil?
We are. We have, on a weekly basis, we have about 20 listeners from Germany, which shocks the shit out of me.
Yeah, it was.
It's spam, probably. It's
no. We found out we were like the #1 podcast in like Somalia one week, and we were like,
it's gotta be people with VPNs. It's gotta be VPNs.
Yeah.
We're going to lose those 20 once they realize we can't brew a Hefeweizen.
Right.
Yes.
We lost them at the start of the show when I butchered some of these names.
You actually did pretty good, believe it or not. And I don't know German very well.
It sounded legit.
You actually did a pretty good job.
I was sold.
Well, so should we move on to commercial beer? Or
I think we should take a break real quick if you don't mind.
If you like what you've been hearing on our show, hit that subscribe or follow button on your podcast service. And if you have any ideas or feedback for us, leave us a review or shoot us a DM on Instagram at StrikeMashBoil. Or join the conversation in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/MVHBC. All right, so we just took a quick break and we're back. We're now going to do the commercial beers. So if you are listening to the podcast and you have some time, go ahead and hit pause and hit up your local packy, and you can pick up Benedikter Weissbier, Eyinger Brauweiss, and Weihenstephaner Hefeweizen. And we're going to start with the Benedikter, which is from southern Bavaria in the Alps. This is actually a Benedictine monastery that brews this beer. So this is a bunch of monks. So everybody, remember, you diss this beer, you're dissing God.
I'm already going to hell, so it doesn't matter.
All right, so
this beer, looking at the can, I'm already super impressed because they have our favorite term on here, Reinheitsgebot. This one is a winner for me right out of the gate. But there is a quick disclaimer that we were chatting about during the break. And that is when we poured the beer and smelled the beer, we said, hey, something's not right here. So on further inspection of the can, we see that our good friend Phil that supplied us with these beers missed the Can On and Best By dates that were printed on this can.
Our good friend.
I could not see it.
So so full disclosure, we may not be able to give this beer a fair tasting because it was canned February of 2020 and it was Best By February of 2021. Today is April 14th of 2021, so we are a couple months past the Best By date. And again, smelling it and looking at it, I haven't tasted it yet. I can see that we have passed its prime.
This is a real problem with any kind of imports, though. I mean, I think we'll probably get some shit from people that, you want to drink real German Hefeweizen, you got to go to Germany. You can't be drinking any of this import shit.
Buy me a plane ticket.
Exactly. There is a point to that, though, and this beer kind of highlights that. I mean, this beer, it's pretty clear. It's pretty orange. I don't know if that's the intention or if it's oxidized.
I think it's oxidized.
It tastes pretty stale and kind of gross, actually. And there you go. I mean, this beer is all about freshness. And this is a prime example of what happens with the style when it sits around for too long.
Yeah, we know that our Haze Boy friends are sticklers for checking can dates and making sure things were bottled or canned 2 or 3 days ago. So the point here is freshness in these, especially any hazy beer, really, freshness is going to be key. So don't just limit your date checking to those New England IPAs. make sure with all of the different beers and different styles sitting on shelves nowadays, it's really easy for something to accumulate some significant time sitting on a shelf. So take the time, flip the can over, take a look. You can use the shrink wrap excuse if you want.
Come on, shrink wrap's clear, isn't it? Like,
just take a look at the damn can, and if it has a canned on date, you can certainly do your math there. But if it has a canned on date and a best by date, and you've surpassed both of them, you probably shouldn't pick the beer up.
If they were canning this beer in February of 20, I mean, they must have been one of the first ones to be doing cans, because the German beers in cans is really, really new. Like,
I'll be honest, I've never even heard of this beer before, so this is a whole new experience for me. Yeah, maybe I'm out of the loop. I've tried every other German Hefeweizen. This is the first time I've ever even heard of these people. So
I could not find Paulaner or Paulaner, depending on who you are and how you pronounce it. I couldn't find that one, and I could not find the Hofbrau. So those are the other two big ones out of Munich, anyway. And then we already talked Schneider. So.
Eric and Matt, that you guys are off the hook with having to score these beers, so you don't have to do that. That was just for the benefit of us and our home brews. But I'm assuming you guys are having the same feelings that we are about the beer drinking.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my score. It was a 10.
I was going with 0, honestly.
That's great.
No, somebody's going to hell.
I'm sorry. No. It's just there's a lot of factors. Yeah, there's a lot of factors going against the beer. Yeah.
I'm getting an appley off flavor as well, which is probably just because it's so old. Yeah, oxidized and yeah.
That wet cardboard flavor.
Oh, my favorite.
So I will add that I did write down all the prices and scores and stuff from some of the bigger social apps out there. So if you are interested in trying a fresh version of this, you can get it for the amazing price of $6 a 4-pack. And those are half-liter cans. So that's 2 liters of beer. The Untapped score is a 3.56, and Beer Advocate is not that far off at 3.59.
I have no idea if that's good or not. I mean,
middle of the road.
I don't take part in those apps either, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know any. Well, yeah, on Untapped, unless you're talking
about like an IPA beer. Or exactly. Yeah. Most beers are around that range.
Yeah. There's what is it? The Untapped WTF or something?
Yeah, I was going to give them a plug because when you start, if you follow on Instagram Untapped WTF, you quickly understand why the scores that you see on places like Untapped are total bullshit.
Oh yeah, because, I mean, my favorite is like, I don't like Hefeweizens. Well, why did you buy it? Like,
why are you rating this?
There's things like they didn't have the beer that I wanted. But I still scored it anyway, and I scored it really low because they didn't have it. And it's like shit like that you see, or somebody will say, "Hey, yeah, my friend, threw, barrel-aged assassin into a mason jar half full and shipped it, across the country, and I got to taste it, and it's a 4.5."
Yeah, at halftime it's like, oh, the customer service was bad or something stupid like that. Or like, I didn't like the bathroom, so 2.5. It's like, what the hell has that to do with a beer? Like, what are you doing?
It's way too clear. And so they give it like a 2.5. It's like, it's a fucking Pilsner.
Actually, the best one right now is first sip was decent and worthy of a 3.75. Second sip ended up with a dead wasp in my mouth. I was indoor and have no idea where it came from. I won't be trying this one again. Thank you, Taproom, for taking care of it.
I also love the ones when people are like, this is the greatest Pilsner I've ever had. 2.25.
Yeah.
Solid.
All right, so let's move on to Eyinger.
All right, moving on.
So another Bavarian beer, and this one is Eyinger is south of Munich. Wonderful town called Eying.
I really love these beers.
There?
I did not go to this one. We did go to Erdinger when we were over there, but I could not find that one either.
Did you shake up the bottle?
No, I should have. I'm sorry.
Is it a bottle condition? Probably.
It is bottle condition. Yeah, I saw some yeast at the bottom.
Yeah.
Or if it's not bottle condition, it has yeast at the bottom.
That it didn't get shook up in my Jeep on the drive over to you, like.
I got some yeast in there.
No, that smells like a Hefeweizen.
That aroma is right on.
We don't have a date on this one.
I was looking for the date. There's a stamp on the back, but
it's like a batch code probably.
Yeah,
I don't know how to read, so.
I mean, judging by just the color alone and the smell, I mean, it's definitely fresher than the last one. I mean, at least I can say that.
Oh yeah,
that's more like it. I mean, that's pretty.
That is a
pretty classic.
Hefeweizen.
And it's amazing how just like pillowy soft the beer is. It's like awesome balance of sweetness and those clove and banana characters. It's incredible. It's so great.
It is.
Maybe that's why this is the first on the list of the BJCP commercial examples.
Oh, fun facts.
Yeah.
I think it's alphabetical there, Chief.
Damn it.
But does that mean that it's a 50? It's first on that list, but
it doesn't necessarily mean it's a 50. So, I mean, the commercial examples are just to kind of give you an idea of what the description of the BJCP is showing. And in fact, ironically, if you enter this in a competition, it probably score like a 45 because no one ever scores anything at 50. That's just the way it is. So that's just a judging thing.
I can drink the shit out of this.
Oh yeah, I mean this is classic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what's the ABV on this one?
5.1.
Yeah, that's that's the wheelhouse. That's where you want to be.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, there's a great balance of the clove, a little bit of banana, definitely. So I think most commercial examples, at least German commercial examples, are going to be more clove heavy. They're actually not big fans of that banana note, believe it or not. I think that's more of an American thing. But there is a little bit of banana in there, but it's definitely, especially in the finish, you get more of that clove spiciness, which I personally like. I know people have other preferences, but
so on the statistics out there, so this was $10 for a 4-pack of almost 12-ounce bottles. They're 330 milliliters.
So we're talking twice as expensive per ounce as the last one.
Yep. Untapped score is only a 3.73, so
which has got to be like the top 5 highest rated Hefeweizens on Untapped.
Probably. The Beer Advocate score is a little probably more reasonable, 4.18 out of 5.
Nice.
Is that the brothers score or is that the
let me check. I have it open. That's the average score. How do you find the brothers score?
It's usually right next to it.
Who cares?
I was just gonna say. I don't know who the brothers are. Like, I don't know. What do they do?
Out of 100 is a 93. So maybe that's the brother score. And the Benedictor is it doesn't even have that score.
The only score that matters is the Strike Bash Boil score right now.
Yeah. I'm telling you that Benedictor is not very common. Like I don't think it's like I said, it's either new or it's
I've seen it around. I've seen it a couple different places.
Well, we know it's been around since February of 2020. We know that.
Or at least mid-spring after the long boat from Deutschland.
Yes.
Well, I will say this. I mean, I'll give them props for putting a date on a lot of these imports. They don't put dates on them, so it's a big guessing game. So I'll give them that at least.
I had the Benedictor actually in May 23rd, 2018. And I had that at what's that? Oh, Old Magoons. I don't know if you've ever been there, Old Magoon Saloon.
Yeah.
They have some really great beers on draft there. Yeah.
And what you
recommend?
Yeah, what'd you rate it?
I gave it a 4.5 on Untapped.
Oh wow. You liked it.
All right.
I really liked it.
It was draft, so you probably had a fresh can.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they survive the pandemic?
It's a great question. I have not been keeping up with that.
Yeah. I hope like that name has been in the news recently. Yeah.
I'll have to check.
I would say my score though, because I know what that is, and I know.
Oh, you want to tell your score?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's your
score? 41.
Oh, okay. 41. Not bad. What are your faults?
Well, they don't give 50s. So I don't give 50s either.
It's catching on.
Yeah. No, I mean it's not. We're not drinking it at cold right now. It's not. Often.
It could be colder.
It could be colder.
Yeah.
You won't get them cold over there.
How are they served over there?
They're probably served in the probably upper 40s. They're not.
All right, so this is a little bit warmer than. Yeah, this is a little bit warmer than upper 40s.
Yeah.
But he put his pinky in it and could tell exactly what temperature it was, and it's definitely higher than the upper 40s.
Are you guys sitting in a sauna right now, or?
Actually,
we are.
Yeah, we are. We're in the attic of my house, and
the AC is off.
AC's off. I had to put the AC on just to get it down from 77 to 74 right now. So
sweltering.
But yeah, 41. It's probably one of the best Hefeweizens I've ever had. Honestly.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get them that often around here, so
yeah.
And to have it in a bottle, reasonably fresh.
That's the other thing is a lot of the air quote Hefeweizens we get around here, unless you're buying it,
they're Americanized.
Yeah, unless you're getting it from Notch or Von Trapp, somebody like that who does those styles of beers. Yeah, they're Americanized, or it's an American wheat that they throw a Hefeweizen label on.
Or there's like flavors in it too. Like I know the one I think from Face, they put a flavoring in theirs. I mean, it's good, but like yeah.
The original Hefeweizen I remember drinking was the Harpoon UFO,
and they put an orange in it.
Well, they've the original blue can. Harpoon UFO, they've discontinued that beer. It doesn't exist anymore. You can get the Harpoon White, which is a Belgian wit. You can still get the UFO Raspberry. It's a Belgian wit like Nick is.
Well, I mean, you're going off a tangent. These aren't Hefeweizens. I mean, these are American wheat beers. Let's not.
Was Harpoon UFO a Hefeweizen? They said Hefeweizen on the can.
It was American wheat beer. They weren't using the yeast. If you're not using the yeast, it's not a German Hefeweizen. Period.
Yeah. I just remember that beer distinctly being the beer my dad would get and drinking it and going to night shift years later, legal age, and being like, oh, I like that beer because that's what my dad drank. It was a Hefeweizen. And then being like, why does this one taste like bananas? Because that beer does not taste like bananas.
So the OG American Hefeweizen is Widmer, right? And they use like a clean American West Coast yeast. I grew up on that stuff, living on the West Coast, and you have the lemon slice with the Widmer Hefeweizen.
Have to have the lemon slice.
Gotta have the lemon slice. That's an American wheat beer. That's not a Hefeweizen. If you don't have the Hefeweizen, the variant Hefeweizen yeast with the phenolics and the esters, it's not a. Maybe we should distinguish. Maybe we should call that a Hefeweizen and call this the Weiss beer, because that's what they call it, right? So,
if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, but Nick, when you did your quick fire questions, wasn't your least favorite beer style the American wheat beer?
Yes, it was.
And I'm sorry, did I just hear you talk about how you used to smash an American wheat beer back in the Northwest?
Now you know why it's not my favorite beer anymore.
Interesting. But you drank a lot of it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I drink.
That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one, but
it's a gateway craft beer.
Exactly.
It is.
It's a gateway beer,
actually.
and I moved on from it. You know what I mean? It's like
but my gateway beer, which was Sam Adams, I still love Boston Lager.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say Widmer was a gateway beer for me. It's just something I drank before I discovered craft beer. It's like something that you just. Because like craft beer in the Pacific Northwest in the late 90s, early 2000s was everywhere. It's different than a lot of places here in the United States. So
you're not that old. Late 90s? Were you drinking in the late 90s? Late 90s? Well, not legally.
No, of course not, Mom and Dad.
You forget how old the doc is.
I wasn't drinking in the 90s either.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm a man. I wore my big boy
40
pants.
years old.
There's an article this week that said you're not middle-aged till you're 65, so you're still
That's the dumbest thing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, the doc is also a scientist, so he knows that that's bullshit.
You're wearing adult diapers at 65. What the fuck are you talking about middle age?
Something to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't wait,
you're closer to there than we are, so awesome.
Thanks for that reminder.
Let's move on to Weinstephaner Hefeweizen. This is the world's oldest brewery, brewed in Freising since 1040 AD.
So I hope this is good. This is a top 5 beer for me all time.
So this is should be the epitome of Hefeweizen.
Yes, this is considered the best in the world as far as what we can get here in the United States.
It's looking good so
best
far.
buy date is 11/19/21, which means it's probably canned 11 of 2020.
So it's fresh off the boat.
That's not too bad.
It looks good.
It's definitely dropped out.
Did you shake the bottom of the can? That's what I'm trying to do.
Matt's doing it right now, so we'll.
I didn't,
we'll see.
I didn't do the Haze Boy roll this time. I fucked up. I screwed it up. I feel like I should dump it out. And start
I
over
enjoyed
again.
the hammering on the end of the can there. That was great.
Oh yeah, it did a little swirly. It comes back.
Yeah, it does come back.
Oh
Oh yeah, that's my jam.
Mine's
Oh yeah.
too clear. Oh well.
It's a little bit oxidized. I will say that.
Just a hair, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm getting that in the nose.
Oh my god, it's so much better though. Than
It
Islander.
is.
It is
It's pretty-
worlds better.
Wow.
It's pretty great.
Oh my god.
That's a 50.
Yeah.
Now, why would you say that? What is so much better about this beer than the other one?
The roundness of the flavor, the clove.
Okay.
So you get that clove flavor, that sweetness, but a lot
Agreed.
of those nasty plastic phenolics that are in my beer are gone. For me, it's just perfect. You get a little bit of banana, but it's definitely clove heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, this is the perfect Hefeweizen. It doesn't get better than this.
And what's really cool about this brewery is it's owned by the state of Bavaria. It used to be an abbey
Owned by the
brewery,
state.
monastery. Yep. It was secularized in the 1800s at some point, and taken over by the state. And they actually have a brewing school there, so you can go to school and learn how to brew. I won't try and say it in German, but it's basically the Bavarian State Brewery. And it's a really, really cool little spot right in Freising. It's about the only thing in Freising. I mean, it's a big town, but...
Is it Staatsbrauerei?
Yep.
See, it wasn't that hard to say.
I totally butchered that. I totally
Brewed
butchered
by
that.
Bayerisch Staatsbrauerei Weinstephaner Freising. Which so what we did was on our trip to Bavaria, Freising is the next town over from Munich airport. So we had a 2:00 flight out. So we went on a Sunday. So we went to lunch at 11:00 in the beer garden and had schnitzel and Hefeweizen and the Vitus, which is the Weizenbach, and it was
That is
awesome.
a dream.
Yeah, and then we got on a plane and flew to England.
Guess that's
Wow,
cool.
I'm shocked
England.
we're talking about Phil's travels again.
Wow,
That's
must be
comes
nice.
up ever.
Must be really nice, Phil. Thanks for rubbing it in. I'm still paying
COVID's so
for
much fun.
student loans and
Yeah.
drinking PBR. Thanks.
Yeah, Phil is what we all like to refer to as a dank.
Yeah, dual income, no kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
double income,
Yeah,
no,
right,
no
right.
kids. So, and he lives up to it all the time.
Going back to this beer, I mean, it's darker than Islander. So, and I'm pretty sure V and Stephaner, since they're a very traditional brewery and they have their big traditional beer school, they probably do decoction. I know they open ferment, so they're doing everything you're supposed to do to produce the best quality beer, and which is why they're world renowned for their stuff. Not only this beer, not only the Hefeweizen, but like their Pilsner, they're world renowned for.
Yeah, they're Helles.
So good.
Actually, it's their Helles. Maybe it's not
The
the Helles.
Helles.
It's the
Yeah.
Helles.
Yeah, Helles is the one.
But
that
yeah,
has-
I mean, all their stuff is just fantastic. I just love this brewery.
Yeah, the 3470 yeast, the dry yeast, comes from this brewery. That's the
fun
lager
facts.
yeast. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's because it's a state-owned brewery, that yeast is public domain.
we
So
need
it's-
more of those.
It's not like Yeast Bay is going off and taking bottles and cans and trying to
Sneaky.
plate off of whatever's the dregs at the bottom of the bottle. You just go to there and say, I want the yeast.
Does that mean like the traditional Bavarian yeast that everyone uses for the style comes from them?
If you're using 3470, yeah. So
No, the Bavarian yeast, not the lager yeast.
the-
The Bavarian Hefeweizen yeast.
yes, this comes from them as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Stefan and the 3068, those all come from
Yep.
here as well. So this one is a 4-pack of half-liter cans. So you get your 2 liters, and it is $9 a 4-pack.
Oh my God, are you
Still
serious?
not bad. That's not
That's
bad.
cheaper than Islander.
Yeah, it is
It
cheaper.
is. Oh yeah, it's much cheaper. I mean,
And it's in cans.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a few dollars more than the Benedictiner.
Which
Why do I not have a case of this in my basement right now?
it used to come in.
Because you stopped
Explain
buying
to
commercial
yourself.
beer. Don't you remember?
I know.
It used to come in a 6-pack of the 330 milliliter bottles, and it was about the same price. But they're switching over to all cans now, all 4 packs of half liters, which is pretty awesome. Untapped score 3.8.
Who cares?
Solid.
But the Beer Advocate score is a 4.45.
Ooh.
Wow, that's really high.
And they are ranked, the score is a 98 overall, and its rank is number 248 out of every beer on Earth on Beer Advocates Go.
That's pretty good for a Hefeweizen.
And it's the world's oldest brewery.
So yeah,
But there are
there
a
you
few
go.
beers that these guys make that we think are the best examples of that beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the Helles is
They're Helles.
Helles is-
World class. Yeah.
Their Dunkelweizen, which is very similar to this, is also world class. It's probably the best Dunkelweizen you can get as well. So,
And that one is a little tougher to get around here. It's almost like weirdly seasonal. You kind of get it at the end of summer into fall, but you can always get the Helles and you can always get this one. And I love that these guys are all like, it's not just them. It's Polliner and Hofbrau. They're all starting to produce their beers in cans. It's probably cheaper for shipping over here, but that's great for us to be able to get beers in cans from over there and take it out on the boat or the lake or the beach or wherever it is you go. And glass is not really a good idea.
well, not to mention the quality is going to be 1,000 times better too than glass. I mean, it's just
they're
a
little
fact.
they're mini kegs, right? So
Yeah,
they're going to survive better on the shipment over here in the container. So yeah, so that's all the beers we have. Weinstefner,
that's
I
all
think,
of them?
wins on the well. You guys didn't give us. Well, you kind of gave a score, but I think it wins the.
it's perfect. It's
commercial
a
beers.
50.
Yeah.
Damn it, perfect.
It's good. That's the winner for sure.
So now you guys understand why we wanted to get our shit beers out of the way first.
I have to
Can you
say,
imagine having those now? Like,
I have to say, Phil's is better than the Benedict.
All of our beers were better than the Benedict.
Yeah.
let's just kidding. They were.
None of ours were
They were.
oxidized. We'll give it that. Nor
Yeah,
were they
that's
a
for
year
sure.
and 14 months old.
I even think if yours was
Solid
14 months
14
old, it
months
would have been
old.
better than that one. I don't know.
I don't know about that.
This beer is all about freshness. I mean, that's what it shows me. But I do want to try that Benedictiner again. So I got to keep an eye out for it because this was sort of an unfair comparison.
Totally.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Well, guys, I do have to say that this was a ton of fun. Really appreciate the Brew Roots folks joining us, and hope you guys enjoyed yourselves hanging out
Oh,
with
yeah.
us.
We did.
I
Thank you for
wanna-
having us.
Hopefully we can do this in person.
Yeah.
Someday
Have us
soon,
again
for
sometime.
sure.
You know.
Yeah.
And if you guys ever do a seltzer one, like I'm your
We're
man.
down.
I am your man. I want to do it.
Matt loves hard seltzers.
Wow,
I just
There's only
wanted
going to be
know.
one homebrew because it's going to come from Joe, and that's it.
This is true. Joe's the only one of you guys. He comes in all the time, buying up sugar, and
Yeah.
I don't
That's it.
care. It's just such a fun. It'd be so ridiculous.
Well, we'll make a deal that when you want to do the seltzer episode, we'll come on to Brew Roots podcast.
there you go.
Done.
That
We'll
sounds
do it.
good.
We will do it.
Done and
We'll
done.
do it.
So anyway, guys, this was a ton of fun. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out the Brew Roots podcast. You guys drop episodes weekly. That's right?
Every Friday.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
We don't have seasons anymore, so I hope you guys keep up with the seasons because it was way better and easier for us when we did it that way. So if you could take any lessons from us, keep on with the seasons. Do not do 52 episodes a year.
Oh my God.
I just wrote that down.
Yeah.
Noted.
Let's get that into our show tracker sheet. So, well, guys, again, appreciate the time. Nick, thanks for joining us again. Your input's always super appreciated. We look forward to doing more brew requisites in the future. This is the second of many to come. So we'll catch you guys next time on Strike Mash Boil.
The Strike Mash Boil podcast is produced by the Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club, an AHA-sanctioned club. Follow us on Instagram at Strike Mash Boil. Join the conversation in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/MVHBC, or send us some feedback at strikemashboil@mvhbc.com.